of the declaration of war by narco-traffickers against the Calderon administration have increased risks in that country. Certainly in Eastern Europe and parts of the former Soviet Union, the impact of the global financial crisis has substantially increased risk in those countries, including countries that we had thought were pretty stable, including Hungary and Poland. These are countries in which risky outcomes are still by no means the likely outcome, but risky outcomes for market players and for geopolitics are much higher than they were a year ago. So they're sort of fat-tail outcomes that we were talking about. The important political impact in the United States is the coincidence of the election of a new president, a Democratic Party president with the control, with very, very large majorities in the Congress. If you look at the economic and financial policy-making circles within the administration, compare those to the thinking that is going on in key congressional committees in the Congress, the Banking Committee, Senate Finance Committee, and elsewhere, there's actually a quite substantial disjuncture. We've highlighted potential conflicts between the executive branch and the legislative branch in the context of the need for a new regulatory regime, in the context of the potential need for recapitalization of the American financial sector as a major global risk, and one that people have to be looking at not only in the United States, but all around the world. More generally, coming out of the financial crisis, we've noticed important changes, in particular, a shift in the balance between political actors and market forces in shaping economic outcomes more generally and financial outcomes in particular. In a very, very real way, the financial capital of the United States has shifted from New York to Washington. Similarly, financial power in many other parts of the world have shifted from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, for instance, in the Gulf, from the city of London to the city of Westminster in the United Kingdom, from Shanghai, in some sense, to Beijing in China. At the same time, we're seeing the rise in a number of countries of populist pressures and pressures for punitive regulation. So we are also looking at a substantial change in the regulatory regime. Let me quickly shift to talk about some analytic methods before I turn the floor over for comments. We use, in the Eurasia Group, we really use a balance of both qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis by itself, we believe, ignores very, very important and very subtle political and qualitative issues that can't be captured in formula or models, while qualitative analysis gives too much of a bias to the specificity of country-level experiences and is biased against comparative and cross-temporal analysis that we believe can help give insight into political risk assessment. Qualitative analysis is most useful for providing in-depth understanding and detail to particular issues. It's important for issues in which other data is scarce, and it's useful to draw together different threads of quantitative analysis to create a comprehensive and comparative set of case examples. Quantification is useful for providing cross-national comparisons of particular risk indicators. Quantitative analysis is important in looking at correlating or failure to find correlations between economic outcomes and particular political processes and outcomes. And quantitative analysis is very important for being able to look at risks across a range of different national entities. So one of the important themes that we have is the balance of quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis. We also use scenario analysis, particularly to highlight the likelihood of fat-tail outcomes, of outcomes that don't look like they're the mainstream outcomes, but are outcomes whose possibility is still there. And again, in scenario analysis, the crucial thing is being open for key transition points where a political event or a political choice could take a decision process or a political process into a different direction or a different orientation. Finally, global trend forecasting, looking, for instance, at global trends in terms of role of government, global demographic trends, global trends in terms of political regime types, rule of law, etc., are important for helping focus assessment in individual country cases. So let me conclude by one last comment on making political risk viable for one's institutions. It seems to me that clear roles and responsibilities are needed for the reporting of risks throughout corporations and public agencies. That management, unless management regularly discusses political risks in ongoing fora, the chances increase that this kind of analysis doesn't get to the appropriate decision maker at the proper moment of time. But in order to do that, analysts have to be very, very aware of what kind of information and what kind of format risks need to be put into for the relevant decision makers. That if the analysts and the managers of the analysts don't understand how senior policymakers will be able to digest political risk assessment, that process of it's really a market failure, that the supply of risk and the demand for risk will not meet and make an effective market. So with those few points, let me open the floor up to questions or comments, and thank you again for inviting me over this afternoon.
David,